I still remember that night, as if it were etched into my skin. It was my 35th birthday, and instead of feeling celebrated, I felt invisible. We were seated at our dining table, candles flickering, the smell of roasted chicken filling the air. I had spent the entire day preparing everything, wanting to make it special, thinking maybe, just maybe, my husband would notice me again. But instead of the warm smile I hoped for, he smirked. "You know, Clara," he said, swirling his wine glass, 35 is not exactly young anymore. You're too old for all this drama of birthdays." The words dropped like stones in my chest. My fork froze halfway to my lips. I tried to laugh it off, but the way he looked at me, cold, detached, almost disgusted, told me he wasn't joking. "Too old?" I whispered. "Yes." He didn't hesitate. "Look at yourself. You're aging, Clara. You don't have that spark anymore. Women in their 20s, now they know how to keep life exciting." I felt the ground slip beneath me. For 10 years, I had been his wife. I had cooked, supported, sacrificed, loved him with everything I had. And now, on the night of my birthday, he was comparing me to women half my age. "Daniel," I said softly, my voice trembling, "I'm still the same woman who stood by you when you had nothing. Do I mean so little to you?" He set his glass down with a sharp click. "You don't get it, do you? I want more. I don't want to be tied down to someone who acts like life is already over at 35. I deserve better." My eyes blurred. My hands shook. But he wasn't finished. "There's someone else," he added casually, as if discussing the weather. "Her name is Mia. She's 24. She understands me." The room spun. I couldn't breathe. "You're leaving me? For her? For someone who makes me feel alive again," he said, standing up. "You should accept it. You're too old for me, Clara." Those words cut deeper than any blade could. Too old. At 35. As though my worth had an expiration date stamped on it. I sat frozen while he packed a small bag, whistling as if he were just going on a business trip. Then the front door closed behind him, and silence swallowed the house. That night, I cried until my pillow was soaked. Every corner of our home mocked me. The photos on the wall, the mug he left on the counter, the jacket draped across the chair. My life had unraveled in a matter of minutes. The next morning, I stared at myself in the mirror. My eyes were puffy, my hair tangled, my skin pale. Was I really too old? Was I no longer beautiful? His words echoed endlessly, digging claws into my heart. Days blurred into weeks. Friends called, but I couldn't answer. I shut the curtains, lived on coffee, and barely ate. Loneliness wrapped itself around me like a suffocating blanket. Everywhere I turned, I saw reminders of his betrayal. I even caught myself checking social media late at night, scrolling through pictures of him with her. The young, bright secretary with glossy hair and sparkling eyes. Each photo was a stab wound. He looked happy. She looked radiant. And I looked like nothing. One evening, I found myself at the grocery store. I hadn't stepped out properly in days. As I walked past the aisles, I overheard two women talking. "She's 35, one said. Practically middle-aged." They laughed. It felt like the universe was mocking me. My chest tightened. My throat burned. I abandoned my basket and rushed home, collapsing on the floor. I was drowning in humiliation. My husband had left me for someone younger. The world seemed to agree that 35 was too old. And the mirror showed me a stranger, someone discarded, someone unworthy. But beneath the layers of pain, a tiny ember of anger began to glow. Why should I let him define me? Why should his betrayal be the end of me? I didn't know it yet, but that ember was the beginning of a fire that would change everything. Still, in those first weeks, the anger was faint compared to the sorrow. Nights were the hardest. The bed felt massive and cold without him. I replayed our memories in my head, wondering what I had done wrong. Was it my fault for not being exciting enough? Was I really so old that love could not see me anymore? One night, while scrolling through photos of him and her, I broke. I threw my phone across the room and screamed until my throat ached. Then, exhausted, I lay there in the dark, realizing something. He wasn't worth my tears. Not anymore. The man who once promised forever had thrown me away like trash. And yet I was still alive. Still breathing. Still capable of rebuilding. That thought, fragile as it was, became my lifeline. I started small. I forced myself to go for morning walks, just to feel the sun again. I cleaned the house, one corner at a time, erasing traces of him. I deleted his number from my phone. It hurt so much, but every small step felt like stitching a torn fabric. I wasn't healed, not even close. But I wasn't completely broken anymore. And deep down, though I didn't know it then, fate was about to throw me into a story so unbelievable, so unexpected, that even my cruel husband would one day fall to his knees before me. For now, I was still just Clara, the woman who had been told she was too old. But soon, the world would see me differently. The days after Daniel left had been unbearable, but slowly, something inside me had shifted. Pain had become fuel. I didn't want to cry anymore. I wanted to rise. At first, it was about survival. I forced myself to wake up early, make the bed, and step outside. The fresh air stung my lungs, but it reminded me I was still alive. I joined a gym near my apartment, not because I wanted to look young, but because I wanted to feel strong again. Every bead of sweat, every aching muscle felt like a small victory. At the gym, I noticed how people looked at me differently, not as the broken woman abandoned by her husband, but as someone determined. One trainer even said, "You've got discipline most younger people don't." For the first time in months, I smiled. Next, I turned my attention to work. I had given so many years to Daniel's dreams, helping him climb his ladder, while mine stayed hidden in the shadows. Now, I wanted to build something for myself. I brushed off my old resume and applied for positions I once thought were out of my reach. Weeks later, I received a call that would change my life. "Mrs. Clara Matthews? This is Carter and Reeves Enterprises. We've reviewed your application, and we'd like to invite you for an interview." Carter and Reeves, one of the most prestigious companies in the city. My heart raced. The morning of the interview, I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of my navy blue blazer. My hair, once dull and lifeless, now gleamed after weeks of care. My eyes, though lined with the scars of tears, carried a quiet strength. When I walked into the towering glass building, I felt a rush of nerves. But as soon as I stepped into the conference room, all doubts melted. I answered each question with clarity, every word fueled by the trials I had endured. A few days later, I got the call. "Congratulations, Clara. We'd love to have you on board." I couldn't believe it. I had a fresh start. On my first day at Carter and Reeves, I walked into the sleek lobby, my heels clicking against the marble floor. Everything was grand. The glass walls, the polished elevators, the air that smelled faintly of power and ambition. And then I saw him, Alexander Reeves, the CEO. He was nothing like Daniel. Where Daniel had arrogance, Alexander had quiet authority. Where Daniel flaunted charm, Alexander carried dignity. He was in his early 40s, tall, broad-shouldered, with steel-gray eyes that seemed to see right through people. When he passed by, people hushed, their respect almost tangible. But when his gaze briefly landed on me, I froze. There was no judgment, no dismissal. Just acknowledgement. A nod, as if he saw me, not as another employee, but as someone worth noticing. I brushed it off and focused on my tasks. But fate had other plans. One evening, I was working late, poring over reports in the empty office. Suddenly, a deep voice broke the silence. "You're new here, aren't you?" I looked up. Alexander Reeves stood a few feet away, his suit jacket draped over one arm, his tie loosened. He looked less like the untouchable CEO and more like a man carrying the weight of an empire. "Yes, sir," I said quickly, standing up. "Don't call me sir," he said with a faint smile. "Alexander will do." I blinked. CEOs didn't usually tell their employees to drop formalities. "You work hard," he continued, glancing at the stack of papers. "Most people are gone by 6. "I guess I don't like leaving things unfinished," I admitted. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. That's rare. Don't lose it. Then he left, just as suddenly as he appeared. That night, as I packed up my things, I couldn't shake the thought of his words. Don't lose it. It was the first genuine encouragement I'd heard in years. Over the following weeks, our paths crossed more often. Sometimes it was in meetings, where he'd ask for my opinion in front of everyone, valuing my input when others dismissed it. Other times, it was brief exchanges in the hallway, where he'd simply ask, "How are you finding the work?" I found myself looking forward to those moments. His presence didn't intimidate me, it steadied me. One Friday evening, after a long board meeting, I was gathering my notes when I overheard two executives whispering near the door. "Who's that new manager?" one asked. "That's Clara. Heard she's a real asset. Even Reeves seems to notice her." I pretended not to hear, but inside, something stirred. I wasn't invisible anymore. A few months later, Carter and Reeves hosted a grand corporate gala. The ballroom sparkled with crystal chandeliers, and everyone was dressed in their finest. I wore a deep emerald gown that hugged me in all the right places, my hair swept up elegantly. For once, I didn't feel old. I felt powerful. As I walked in, I noticed Alexander across the room, speaking to a group of investors. His gaze caught mine, and for a moment, it felt like the room stilled. He excused himself and walked over. "You clean up well," he said softly. I laughed nervously. "That's quite the compliment from the CEO." "It's not a compliment," he said, his eyes steady on mine. "It's the truth." The music started, a slow waltz filling the air. To my shock, Alexander extended his hand. "Dance with me?" I hesitated. "People will talk." "Let them," he said simply. I placed my hand in his, and we moved onto the floor. As we danced, I felt every pair of eyes on us. But all I could see was him. His hand on my waist, his gaze unwavering, his presence grounding me. In that moment, I realized something. This wasn't just a dance. This was the beginning of something neither of us could ignore. And as the night drew on, I caught myself smiling in a way I hadn't in years. Not because someone needed me, not because I was proving myself, but because I was finally seen, truly seen, for who I was. Little did I know, this new chapter of my life would lead me straight into the arms of the man who would not only heal me, but change the course of my entire destiny. The weeks after the gala felt like a blur. What began as stolen glances and brief conversations slowly blossomed into something undeniable. Alexander and I started working closely on projects, and I realized he wasn't just a powerful CEO, he was kind, thoughtful, and attentive in ways Daniel had never been. He asked about my opinions, and when I spoke, he actually listened. He encouraged me to take risks at work, to trust myself. And in small, subtle ways, he cared. One afternoon, when he noticed me skipping lunch, he left a sandwich on my desk with a note. Asterisk, fuel the mind, but don't forget the body. Asterisk. I found myself smiling more often, laughing even. It was a part of me I thought had died when Daniel walked out. One evening, as we both left the office late, the city lights shimmering against the glass building, Alexander turned to me. "Clara," he said softly, "I know we're crossing a line, but I can't keep pretending I don't feel something." My heart raced. "Alexander, you don't need to answer now," he interrupted gently. "But I need you to know, you're not invisible to me. You never could be." I didn't sleep that night. His words replayed over and over in my mind. For years, I had been told I wasn't enough, that I was too old, too boring, too plain. And here was a man, successful, admired, powerful, telling me I was more than enough. Days turned into weeks, and the tension grew. One evening, after a particularly stressful meeting, Alexander asked, "Would you like to join me for dinner?" Just dinner. Nothing more. I hesitated, then nodded. That night, in a quiet corner of an elegant restaurant, we talked, not about work, but about life. He told me about his childhood, the struggles of building his empire, the loneliness that came with power. I told him about Daniel, about the betrayal that had nearly broken me. He listened, really listened, his jaw tightening at the cruelty I had endured. "You deserve so much better," he said firmly. And for the first time, I believed it. One dinner turned into several. Laughter replaced silence. Warmth replaced emptiness. Then one night, as he walked me to my car, he stopped. "Clara," he whispered, "I can't keep holding back." Before I could respond, his lips brushed against mine. Gentle, searching, hesitant. It wasn't rushed or demanding. It was a kiss that asked for permission, that carried respect. And I let myself fall. Our relationship grew in secret at first. We were careful, aware of the whispers that could start in an office like ours. But the bond between us was undeniable. He didn't treat me like I was 35 going on 50. He treated me like I was timeless. Months later, Alexander invited me to a private dinner at his home. The table was set with candles, soft music playing in the background. Halfway through the evening, he reached across the table and took my hand. "Clara," he said, his voice steady but his eyes vulnerable, "you've given me something I never thought I'd find. Peace. I want you in my life, not just as a partner in work or fleeting moments, but permanently. Marry me." My breath caught. "Marry you?" He nodded. "Yes. I know it's sudden, but I also know what I feel. And I think you do too." Tears welled in my eyes. After everything Daniel had done, after being told I was too old, too worthless, here was a man asking me to be his wife. Not because of what I could give him, but because of who I was. "Yes," I whispered, my voice breaking. "Yes, Alexander. I'll marry you." His smile in that moment lit up the entire room. Our wedding was intimate but elegant. A private ceremony attended by close friends, colleagues, and family. I wore a satin gown, simple yet graceful. My hair swept back, a new light in my eyes. As I stood at the altar with Alexander, I felt like I was rewriting my entire story. But fate has a cruel sense of irony, because among the guests, whispers traveled quickly. One of Daniel's old colleagues had spotted me. Within days, the news reached him. His ex-wife, the woman he had tossed aside for being too old, was now Mrs. Clara Reeves, the wife of his powerful boss. The storm began almost immediately. I received the first sign one afternoon when I walked into the office and found Daniel waiting in the lobby. His eyes widened as he saw me step out of the elevator, my wedding ring glinting under the light. "Clara," he breathed. I met his gaze, my spine straight. "Daniel." His face paled, then flushed. You married him?" "Yes," I said calmly. "Alexander is my husband." For a moment, he was speechless. Then he laughed bitterly. "Unbelievable. My boss. That's what this is about, isn't it? Revenge." "No," I said firmly. "This is about respect. Something you never gave me." His jaw clenched. "You can't be serious. Clara, you don't belong in his world." "And yet, here I am," I replied, walking past him. But Daniel wasn't ready to let it go. He began showing up at places he knew I'd be, outside the building, at the coffee shop I frequented, even once outside our gated home. His arrogance had crumbled into desperation. I overheard him one day at the office, pleading with a colleague. "She was mine first. She can't just throw away 10 years of marriage." But he had thrown it away. Not me. And the more he saw me by Alexander's side, confident, radiant, cherished, the more it destroyed him. He had lost not only me but also his pride. And the bitter irony? The younger woman he'd left me for had already moved on, leaving him alone, discarded, the very way he had left me. Now he was the one drowning in humiliation. But the story wasn't over yet. Because Daniel wasn't done. He was planning something desperate, to claw back the life he thought he deserved. And I was ready to face him, not as the broken woman he once abandoned, but as the wife of the man who had given me back my power. Daniel's desperation only grew with each passing week. Every time I appeared in public with Alexander, whether at charity galas, business meetings, or even casual dinners, the paparazzi captured us. Headlines screamed about the marriage between the powerful CEO and his graceful new wife. My face was everywhere, and for once, I wasn't the shadow behind a man. I was standing tall, visible, respected. But Daniel couldn't stand it. He began calling me, texting me, leaving voicemails I refused to listen to. At first, his tone was angry. "You're making a fool out of me, Clara. Everyone at work is laughing behind my back. You think this is love? You think Reeves really cares about you? He'll drop you the way I did." But when I didn't answer, his arrogance began to crumble. The messages shifted to pleading. "Clara, please. I made a mistake. I was stupid. I shouldn't have said those things. You're not too old, you're perfect. I see it now. Come back to me. We can fix this." Each word felt like a twisted echo of the humiliation he had once thrown at me. One night, I came home from an event with Alexander to find Daniel waiting outside our gates. His eyes were bloodshot, his suit wrinkled, his tie undone. Security stopped him, but he shouted my name until I stepped out of the car. "Clara." His voice cracked. "Please, just 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Alexander looked at me, his jaw tight. "Do you want me to handle this?" I shook my head. "No. This is mine to finish." I walked toward the gates, my heels clicking against the pavement. Daniel's face lit up with hope, the kind of desperate light of a man drowning and reaching for anything to hold onto. "Clara," he whispered, "you look incredible." Stop. My voice was cold, steady. "Say what you came to say." He swallowed hard. "I was wrong. All of it. Calling you old, throwing you aside, choosing her. It was the worst mistake of my life. I thought I wanted youth, excitement, something fresh. But she left me. She used me. And now I see it. You were everything. You are everything. Please come back. We can start over." For a moment, silence hung in the air. Years ago, those words might have broken me open, might have tempted me to forgive. But now, all I felt was clarity. "Daniel," I said softly, "do you remember the night you told me I was too old at 35? That I was useless? That you wanted someone younger?" He winced. "I didn't mean it. I was angry." "Yes, you did," I replied. "You meant every word. And I believed you. I cried myself to sleep, thinking I had no value, that my best years were behind me. Do you know what that does to a woman? To be discarded like she's expired." His eyes filled with tears. "Clara, I was a fool. I see it now. You're radiant. You're stronger than ever. Please, don't punish me forever for one mistake." "One mistake?" I laughed bitterly. "Daniel, you didn't just make a mistake. You destroyed a marriage. You crushed my spirit. You left me for a fantasy, and when reality didn't live up, you came crawling back." He reached through the gate, as if trying to touch me. "But we have history. 10 years, Clara. Doesn't that mean anything?" "Yes," I said firmly. "It means I wasted 10 years on someone who never deserved me." His face crumpled. "So that's it? You're choosing him over me?" "I'm choosing myself," I answered. "Alexander just happens to be the man who saw my worth when you couldn't. He doesn't need me to be younger, prettier, or different. He loves me as I am, something you were never capable of." Behind me, I felt Alexander's steady presence, his quiet strength. And in that moment, I knew the truth. I didn't need Daniel's validation. I never had. "Goodbye, Daniel," I said, turning away. "No," he shouted, his voice breaking. "Clara, please. Don't leave me like this." But I kept walking, my head high, my heart steady. The gates closed between us with a final clang, sealing the chapter of my past forever. That night, as I stood on the balcony of our home, the city lights twinkling below, Alexander wrapped his arms around me. "Are you all right?" he asked gently. I leaned against him, exhaling deeply. "For the first time in years, yes. I'm more than all right." He kissed the side of my head. "You deserve peace, Clara. And you'll have it. With me, always." I looked out at the horizon, feeling the weight of the past finally lift. I wasn't the woman Daniel had called too old. I wasn't broken, discarded, or forgotten. I was loved, respected, and powerful in my own right. And as Alexander held me close, I realized something beautiful. Daniel had thought 35 was the end of my story. But in truth, it was only the beginning. Because life doesn't end when someone tells you you're not enough. Life begins when you finally see your own worth. And I had found mine.